So Ukraine is they're now in the statue removing business, just like we are. And they
Our
have
statues are
removed.
different, though. Our statues represent our heritage for southern states. Their statues are the equivalent of Hitler.
Well, he wasn't. Well, he's the face of communism, basically. Like, I wouldn't say he's attributed to Hitler. I think Stalin's more Hitler-esque than Lenin was. Lenin was just the leader of the communist movement. So he started that whole, after the Bolshevik Revolution, like he started the whole, basically communism movement, in that area. So I can see them because Ukraine has been, I guess right now Ukraine and Russia are in this.
Not friends.
They're not friends at all. Russia's been. Well, Russia's been attacking them for years. They've been, cyber attacking them and trying to,
and physically attacking them. And
definitely running
them,
running tanks. You
should have doing sooner. What can I tell you?
So I don't know if this is meant to throw like a. I don't know if dismantling these Soviet era symbols are supposed to anger the Russians, because Russia has not gone back. Russia hasn't gone back to being communist. Like, they still are democratic in their in their bio, in their brochure. They are still listed as a democratic society. I know we can debate their the way they handle themselves is another thing. But I'm wondering, do they, with the Ukraine, are they doing this just to incite Russia, or is this something that they just feel, what, we have to do it now? Like, it just seems too.
It could be both. It could be beneficial to them to incite, to be like, hey, screw you, Russia, and at the same time, they just want to take it down. It could be both. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, there's more than one reason something gets done. Usually, it's not a good reason.
And it seems a lot dangerous. It seems a lot more dangerous for them to be removing those statues, given the history with Russia lately over the years, like we just said, versus here in America, where you're not going to see a bunch of conservatives drive with a tank down the street and say, you need to put the statue of Robert E. Lee back up because it's part of history. Like, I mean, I don't think we're going to see that, but yeah.
For us, I feel it's a different story. It might not be too different, but for us, it is heritage. Our country doesn't actually have a lot of heritage if you look around, because everything looks like shopping malls and gas stations and just crap like that. There's a McDonald's everywhere. So anytime you see monuments, it sticks out. It's like, hey, look, that's a legit monument. So that's my problem with it, is like, I feel like we're tearing down all this heritage because we don't like it. But at the same time, I feel if you tear down this monument, then you're removing our remembrance of it. Like, because part of that monument is we did bad things, and we have to remember we did bad things so we don't do bad things again. But now we're tearing down that monument and making ourselves more susceptible in a way to doing those same kinds of things. Like, segregation has slowly started to sneak back, but now it's under the mask of virtue. It's like black people in certain areas are like, hey, we want to be segregated, away from white people. We want a day without white people. Well, you're asking for segregation. You're asking for the same thing the KKK wants. They want it too. It's not a good thing. We should all, the melting pot doesn't work if it doesn't melt together.
Yeah, and we also have to look at, we see all these different groups from other countries come into our country, and, we understand they keep their culture. We're not telling them to get rid of their culture when they come over here, but we want everyone, and it's not this whole, we want them to assimilate, but we kind of want them, hey, you know what? We want you to be a part of America. Like, we want you to get along with people. We want to learn your culture, but also, like, we don't want to feel like we're being singled out. Like, so, you have these, like, little Havana and little, I don't know, little Jamaica and all these little areas that show up, Chinatown and everything, where it seems like it's a microcosm of that culture that they left behind that they're still holding on to when they come here.
Sorry.
And we don't have, I guess because America has that, hey, anyone is welcome here. Like, as long as you follow the, as long as you follow
assimilate. We don't
yeah,
want you to be
not
just like
assimilate,
us.
but as long as
let's be
you
clear.
take the,
You have to assimilate.
but you have to take the right steps to become a citizen. Like, basically, that's what they're saying.
But you have to assimilate. Like, I know what you're thinking of, and I'm not thinking of the same thing. You have to assimilate into the American way of life. It doesn't mean you have to give up your traditions or your religions, but you have to put our rules first. American rules first.
So we don't want to
obey
have
our Constitution. That's what I mean by assimilate. Like, you have to take on our rules. If when in Rome, do as the Romans do. That doesn't mean that you can't have Chinatown and everything else, but it does mean you can't have honor killings. You can't just turn around and say, my daughter got raped by that dude. Guess I got to kill her now. No, you can't. It's America. You have to assimilate to our rules. That doesn't fly here.
But you have to make it so that it's welcoming to everyone.
No, I don't.
You can't.
I don't.
No, what I'm saying is they cannot bring their culture and their identity into this country, but then exclude themselves off as as an autonomous region or area.
Well,
so they can't come in here and say, okay, this is our Chinatown, white people aren't allowed.
Yeah, of course not, because they have to obey our rules.
Exactly, and there won't be Sharia law or anything like that to where we don't want that in
America's
here.
rules.
Well, yeah.
Rules of civilized world.
Well, yeah. I mean, we do have, out of all the countries out there, our rules are pretty much civilized, and we're
the only ones with free speech. I mean, come on.
Yeah, technically we are.